So, hello, I'm Richard Volta. I'm the founder of Mews Systems, and I'd like to welcome you all to turning into this special webinar that we've created for you. Yeah, and I'm so delighted to have this panel of experts with us today. So they'll all have a chance to actually share with you their particular insight. But it's anything from marketing to branding, to the way that you revenue manage, to the way that you actually kind of position yourself coming out of this, and also a real look at, you know, how do the operations look and how might they actually kind of change. So James Lemon, the founder of The Growth Works. Well, let's hope that growth works again. He's formerly a hotelier with IHG. And I think it's really great to have someone of your experience and you know, on this panel. But you know, what are you hoping to kind of, you know, so rather than maybe seeing growth, it's mainly about those kind of strategies for reopening. And again, what are you seeing that some of your clients have actually kind of taken as strategies that you think are working, and what are you advising them to kind of to build upon for, you know, that reopening phase that we're all thinking about, I think, in this moment?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Richard, and thanks for having us. I think there's been some great thoughts so far, so I'll try and compliment. Yeah, I mean, I've spent just over a decade in travel as a kind of hotelier with IHG, but also in the kind of service department, short stay rental business. I was a COO, so kind of know the ins and outs of ops challenges, and also on the travel tech side, so kind of corporate travel port, some of those kind of businesses. Yeah, I mean, look, for about the last 18 months, the GrowthWorks has been a kind of dedicated hospitality consultancy trying to bridge the gap between strategy, commercial operations, and partnership innovation. So we work with big clients like IHG who bring us in usually to do kind of partnership approaches, like how should we plug the talent of the proven solutions in the tech industry into our strategy, into our models, and ultimately into our hotels. Obviously, we're now trying to use those same skills to think, well, how can we support our clients like IHG, but also smaller regional chains, right down to very small kind of national units, to actually help with recovery plans, because it's going to be, I think, that same kind of experience and resource and that'll get us out of this. So won't dive into kind of marketing and revenues. It feels like that's been done, but I just wanted to comment a little bit, I suppose, on leadership and approach of what we're seeing. And bluntly, I'm seeing two types of leadership right now. There's very much the I'll think about it later leadership, which is that right now we're in a crisis and I don't care about anything else. It'll come, but I'm just not ready to talk about recovery. But I expect the kind of people that are on this call fall into the second camp, which is actually, you know, the recovery starts now. It's going to be tough. So we may as well start putting what building blocks we can in place to make sure we get out of it. I mean, yeah, obviously not to make light of it. The most important thing, and we're seeing across all our clients, is to make sure that the business is protected. So I spoke to an MD this morning who just talked about his business being on ice, you know, as a vacation destination until the UK government says, yeah, hotels can reopen, people can leave their homes. Not a lot he can do. But there's really four elements to that protection. One is just team. You know, is your team safe? Are they used to working from home? Have they got the support they need? Are there some kind of learning and development ideas in place? You know, Klaus mentioned their free training. We're seeing loads of great free L&D stuff out there. Your communication with them, absolutely essential, sharing what you know and to an extent what you don't know. Second priority, obviously finance, seeing a lot of just kind of pushing back on payments, making sure that you've modeled, if this is a sustained downturn, you know, can you see it through? You know, no one wants to see people's businesses disappear. Thirdly is partners. We're seeing a lot of people, as Charlie says, part of it's revisiting your relationships and your terms, but actually a lot of it is just quite openly talking to them about the situation you're in, and obviously, you know, protecting any cash flows and not letting any money out the door. But one thing we really encourage is don't burn any bridges. You know, leave that door open that your partners can form a part of your recovery plan as well. You know, we've certainly seen a couple of clients who probably led by procurement, have gone really hard on suppliers, which just means it's going to be really tough in terms of goodwill and capacity as and when they want to kind of dig themselves out of it, and including everything from, you know, cleaning companies and tech companies and distributors as well. And then the last priority, of course, on the protect theme is got to be your guests. So hopefully most of the cancellation policy stuff has been done. Have a look at whether that worked. We're seeing people going, actually, I really didn't handle it that well, but we've still got lots of forward bookings, as Angelique was showing us in the data. So if you're going to go through a second wave of cancellations, what went well? What do you leave behind? Again, a lot more people are moving to, you know, gift vouchers and delayed trips rather than a blanket knee-jerk cancellation, which potentially we saw in the first kind of wave. So you know, the clients we think are going to come back strongest, I think the only way we can describe it, and I think it's probably pretty common now, is I think people are doing kind of years worth of strategy work, years worth of work in just a few days, in just a few weeks. And all I can say is, as much as it doesn't kill us, can we have that same energy and can we have that same innovation on the way up? Right, because we all move mountains to, you know, change business models, blow up ways of working, get everyone safe, and react to our consumers in a way we've never done before. You know, what could we harness about that to get that kind of energy kind of on the way up? So we've noticed just three really simple things in clients that we're seeing building recovery plans now, and I guess I'll just kind of quickly share those. One is, you know, being flexible. Yeah, we're not an industry that's known for creativity or agility. If we're honest, we've talked about doing tech for 20 years and we don't really, but you know, keep that flexibility in place. Have some monitoring in place, you know, your own data, external data, like the stuff we were seeing earlier. What can you learn and read about from markets coming back online, like China, but, you know, or kind of parts of Europe now? What are hotels trying? What's worked? What's failed? Also look at other sectors. You know, there's great blogs from, you know, the airline industry, the fast food industry, people trying to understand some of these new consumer trends. Well, what are people really going to care about? Will people take the middle seat? Won't they? Will restaurants have to have lower occupancy? Or and it'll kind of depend by segments. So within that flexibility, you know, plan a couple of scenarios for yourself. You know, we definitely talk about moving from plans and forecasts to scenarios. What are the big things you want doing in the next 3 months? What are, you know, all the considerations and ideas that you could approach, and what signs are you going to watch for as and when demand comes back? And yeah, we definitely talk about getting a way to bring in ideas from your team. You know, I'll talk a little bit about what to get out of your team, but finding a platform, whether it be a Trello board or whatever, where people can throw in, you know, new ideas around your different priorities, whether that be new sources of revenues, whether that be domestic leisure, whether that be, you know, restaurants and bars. Pick your priorities and then to get people to throw ideas at it that you can quickly turn into tests. So stay flexible, number one. Number two is be deliberate. Again, this is not going to happen by accident, and it's not going to happen in functions. You know, it doesn't take, you know, a very big chain to suddenly be like, that's sales' job, that's marketing job. But every single priority that I can see on the horizon is going to take everyone. You know, if you just take you know, new cleaning standards, we've seen some of the big chains get ahead of it, not because they're running at 100% occupancy, but because they know that's the marketing message that for them, they want to try to give guests confidence to come back, right? Okay, if we do these cleaning things really well, let's let the corporates know, let's get it out on our channels, let's get people on our direct website and tell them what we're going to do. That's a multifunction effort. And again, if we're honest, not always great as an industry of working across teams. So you have that kind of deliberate effort. Functions we absolutely recommend having involved. One is kind of your finance guy and your data guy, which is just, you know, how robust is the business? What capacity, if any, can we, you know, spend any money? And of course, data around monitoring what's coming next. Marketing, commercial, ops, technology, and someone from your people team. You know, it's really about that small group meeting regularly to move things fast from what are the priorities to what are the ideas to, frankly, you know, what can we experiment on? You know, if you've got more than one hotel, you know, stick plexiglass at one check-in, trial, you know, touchless check-in at another, do masks and gloves at another, and just get customer surveys, be like, what's driving confidence? And this is where I, you know, any hotels that are still open for key workers, they're learning so much faster than everyone else, because they're really getting a sense of, what is the kind of hospitality of the next 6 months in terms of needs. So yeah, I'm sure that your team will generate tons of ideas. We're seeing, alternative revenues. We're seeing people remap their guest journey. What are all the physical touch points from, the buffet to the lift to check-in to pre-stay that we need to be giving more information, or letting people have a touchless thing. We're seeing people, repaint the back stairs and saying there's a voucher if you'll take the stairs instead of the lift on the first few floors. Again, all of these different things. But it's going to be bespoke to you, because if you have 2 elevators in 30 stories in Manhattan, you don't have many rooms on those first few floors. So it's all about being bespoke. And then, so be flexible, be deliberate. Last one is be collaborative. Again, internally, it's going to take every function. But externally, what we're seeing is just the energy across the industry is such a ray of optimism. Like, just people getting together and picking up the phone to different partners, and academia's getting involved, and we're seeing all kinds of free materials and great advice out there. Almost every partner that we work with, people like Triptease, are saying, look, we'll grab an hour on the phone with anyone. If they just want to hear about how we can help. We don't just need to go on webinars with 300 people. Like, someone on Charlie's team will probably give you their time one-on-one and talk about a solution for your hotel. And we're seeing that, and by the way, we do that too. We're seeing that right across the board. And it's an amazing time to be exposed to these external ideas that could help you, or at least trigger a few thoughts. So assign the team on who's going to research what, and make sure that your team have got, support, mentors, contacts that they can reach out to around the industry, and start harnessing that stuff through collaboration. And I think those 3 elements of leadership are what we're seeing that are going to make the big difference in the next 6 months, whichever tactics end up being right for your particular, hotel or chain.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And I think just to maybe ask, because I think we're seeing a lot of people basically ask about, what are the types of hygiene standards that you can talk about? Not everyone has the resources to go and reach out to Lysol and think about how they can actually kind of protect their hotel. I know that there are some associations that are trying to kind of do with it. Have you seen, for example, hotels band together to try and figure out, what is a good standard there?
Yeah, look, we're definitely seeing. I mean, I for the most part, I'm working with chains who are part of some kind of association. We're definitely seeing groups like, on this side of the pond, people like UK Hospitality, on in the States, AHLA. People are taking a big step forward, and there's a really important step that we have to own this as hoteliers, because if we don't own it, one of the OTAs will come out with something and say you just have to go with this. So I think it's really important we do get out in front of it. Again, without being uncommitted to it, it's kind of, we don't quite know, right? We're clean anyway, but we don't know what specific guest touch points are going to make a satisfactory, confident guest journey. And I imagine different types of travelers will be different as well. You'll get people who are just getting on with business and okay with a little bit of risk. You'll get people obviously who are kind of super hygienic. But I mean, we should obviously do the basics, which is you probably need a checklist, and you need to be getting up on your website. Feel free to borrow some of the best things that are already out there, and obviously a big push for hand sanitizers and wipes for your guest. But again, there'll be this mix. We are hotels, not hospitals, and I think there will be an element of personal responsibility as well. No matter what you say on your website, I imagine most people who are traveling are going to be bringing their own mask, gloves, and wipes to wipe down the hotel room. So I think the hygiene things is one thing, but where your responsibility lies is that guest journey mapping. Where can you simplify and reduce the risk across your touch points? So we're seeing one chain that we're working with. They're not going to have any more phones in their rooms. They're just moving to a guest messaging app. One less thing to clean. That'll save time. Who's going to pick up a phone anyway? It's an innovation that bridges, the hygiene concerns with strategy they wanted to get onto anyway. If you can hit that fine line, then get it done now would be my recommendation.
Like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we're absolutely saying is don't expect any quick bounce back, right? I think the two things that we've said, one is that this is about rebuilding customer by customer and going after the segments that work. I think that's absolutely critical. And the other is that, frankly, and it probably is the economic impact. I think there's this economic impact. Plus, frankly, we're all so used to new ways of working now that actually it wouldn't surprise me if business doesn't come back to those heady heights for several years, if ever, in the same segments, because I think people are just so much more comfortable that many trips can be done. But to give confidence, though, you know, we're hearing a lot of people saying, actually, you know, looking at America, people are desperate to get back to work. And for a lot of people, getting back to work is travel. And it is, you know, I need to be on the road again, whether that's driving or short flights, and I need to be with my customers, my suppliers, my manufacturers. So, you know, there will be business coming back. I think if you go with that really agile experimentation we were talking about before, you will be able to capture it. But absolutely, you know, it is not going to bounce back to the kind of demand you saw a few months ago, either levels or type, I think, frankly. So you need to go hunting. I think you need to kind of, it's going to be a hustle game of, you know, how quickly can you turn that data into ideas, into experiments, and then into reservations and business. Yeah, look, I think it's a really tough one. And we have a client who under that kind of hygiene pillar is like throwing tons of ideas at this, as everyone should. And there is no bad idea, and you can test everything. But I think that the conclusion we reached is it's going to be almost impossible to maximize revenue around cleanliness. You know, there might be an element of, look, you know, we give you a box of tissues and a hand sanitizer, of, you know, kind of antibacterial wipes and hand sanitizer. If you want a load of that stuff, it might be a package that you buy. But we found almost no ways you could do it and still be socially acceptable, because we've got to remember, I think it's been mentioned already, we should be playing the cleanliness card anyway, right? Our hotels or our service apartments or homes should be clean anyway. And so I think that we can communicate what we're doing. And as Charlie made the great point, we've actually got to do it either in-house or through our cleaning partners, because you do not want to get it wrong in this, in the kind of heightened awareness we're going to have. But I think to revenue maximize it around would be go back to the question, we're absolutely seeing this tension of lowering prices, but potentially higher kind of cleaning costs. Again, I think it's going to be a relatively low occupancy environment anyway. Also a massive fan of kind of non-room revenue and really creative ideas. But I think it's about where the actions that need to get you through the next 6 months, i.e. cleanliness, drive confidence, get that messaging out, have to also marry up with stuff you won't regret in a couple of years from now, because cash is so tight. So if you were to do something like move to a contactless check-in, you'd probably put that in that box, right? You know, that is a lower cost model in the end. But I think I think we've all said it, I don't think the industry should try and turn itself into hospitals. And I don't think we should go away from hospitality, because I think it'll backfire. And if we try and monetize it, I expect it'll doubly backfire. But again, I'm the one that loves data and experimentation. So I would, if someone wants to try it, come back to us, let us know. Did you drive revenues through hygiene and social distancing? Because I'd love to know the answer to that. I think the only challenge I'd make to that, Calvin, and again, you're right, it might be t-shirts on a website, might be a stretch too far, is I think we do need to move away from the obsession with rooms revenue. You know, if we think about these as assets in whatever location they're in, most of them can do more than just sell rooms, right? So some creativity, again, I'm all about a threshold, right? Can this hit, you know, $10,000 a month? You know, set yourself a goal of, hey, don't bring this idea to the table unless it's credible. But you've got to have some of that creativity out there. It will rebuild revenues to an extent. It will also keep the team really engaged. You know, we're seeing people opening their kitchens before their rooms and doing things like Uber Eats. But you know what? They're also able to support the community with meals when it's tough. They're also actually learning what it's like to operate a kitchen with social distancing and thinking about getting to work again. So I'm not saying it has to be, you know, it has to be realistic, but let's not just obsess about rooms. If you're sitting on a property that could do more, obviously, if it's a service apartment, no lobby space, it might be different. But I think some creativity around restaurants, around meeting space, around upsell, I think there's a lot to go for beyond our traditional view of rooms revenue.